Hello everyone, and welcome to this video that was created in collaboration with the Wix SEO Learning Hub. In this video, I want to present to you a complete guide to preventing keyword cannibalization. This video is going to help you understand, identify, fix, and prevent cannibalization issues on your website. Anyone that works on a medium or large-sized website will inevitably run into keyword cannibalization. This refers to competing against yourself for website rankings. In other words, having two or more pages competing against one another for the same set of keywords. Cannibalization can be harmless in some cases, but it can also lead to negative consequences for your organic performance. In particular, it can do one of two things, or both. The first one is leading to frustration and poor user experience for your site visitors, who may end up visiting multiple pages before finding the right information that they need. The second thing it can do is indicate to search engines and also to users that you have duplicate content issues. So in this guide, I'll help you to understand the different types of cannibalization that can occur on your site, the various issues that they can cause, and how to identify them. I'll also share some strategies for diagnosing, fixing, and preventing cannibalization issues altogether. So let's get started. Let's first talk about the common types of cannibalization. Generally speaking, cannibalization problems occur when pages on your site lack unique focus. Those pages target the same type of user or keyword or contain the same perspective and content or all of the above. And as a result, they compete with other pages on your website. Despite many misconceptions floating around in the SEO field about cannibalization issues making it more difficult for search engines to discover or rank pages, spokespeople from Google have clarified that this is not the case. Even so, cannibalization can add unwanted friction to your user experience and is more of a strategic concern, as per Google, which can in turn impact search performance and also site performance, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, let's go through the different examples of cannibalization issues to see which ones you should pay attention to. I've split these into three categories. The first one is keyword cannibalization. Keyword cannibalization refers to multiple pages on your website targeting and ranking for the same keyword. This type of cannibalization isn't always problematic. After all, pages always appear for multiple keywords, so some degree of overlap for the queries that they rank for is pretty common. But keyword cannibalization becomes an issue when it hinders the user experience. Consider the scenarios. The first scenario is multiple pages on your website target the exact same keyword and have a similar on-page structure. Now let's imagine that there are two pages on your site targeting the keywords customer onboarding mistakes in the titles, URLs, and page headings, and all of those pages are listicles. This might lead to multiple pages with different but synonymous titles, like for instance, 5 customer onboarding mistakes that lead to early churn, or 4 user onboarding mistakes that threaten retention. Even though the advice in these lists might be different, splitting the message or content into different pages compromises the user experience. The second scenario that you might consider to identify this is when multiple pages on your site target the same audience and the same keywords with the same offer. An example of this would be creating 3 similar resources on the same topic. For instance, a new client onboarding template, a new client onboarding guide, and a new client onboarding manual. Regardless of the subtle differences in these 3 resources, the core message and the intended audience of all of these resources is the same, which might cause frustration for users. The second type of cannibalization that I want you to pay attention to is search intent cannibalization. Now, this happens when a website has multiple pages that are optimized to satisfy exactly the same search intent. This could manifest as keyword cannibalization, but it could also be a little bit more nuanced than that and more difficult to detect. Search intent cannibalization is typically a sign of an uncoordinated or inefficient content strategy, and it can occur regardless of the website size, although it is to be said that it is more typical to find this type of cannibalization in a mid to large or enterprise level website. Now, let's see some examples of problematic search intent cannibalization. The first scenario that I want you to consider is there are pages on your website that outrank the most appropriate keyword match content despite satisfying less of the searcher's intent. An example of this would be a website that has a page that directly addresses the query, "What is structured data validation?" in an informational blog post. However, when the user searches this query in Google, this page, which is the most relevant to their search intent, is shown beneath other content on the site, which also provides a definition as part of the content. Another scenario that you could consider is when you have pages on your website that outrank other pages that are better suited to satisfy the search intent due to issues related to authority, technical, design, or UX differences. This is very common for large organizations where different teams run different sections of the website, and a particular team or department owns query performance. An example of such problem would be a SaaS company's product or service pages outranking their documentation page for a branded query that contains the term API documentation. For instance, Google Search Console API documentation. In this instance, the query already indicates the user's desire to navigate to the documentation, which is a sign that they either need to validate that the API can resolve a particular problem that they have before they purchase, or that they already have API access. The reason for this cannibalization might be related to the on-page content or keyword cannibalization, but it might also be a result of more backlinks and or a better technical SEO or UX on the product or service page. The third and final type of cannibalization that I want to talk about is content cannibalization. Content cannibalization is when the content on two or more pages are fairly similar, even when search intent or target keywords might differ. Now, content cannibalization can occur when you're programmatically generating pages as a result of either a small database of content or when a page isn't targeted or focused correctly for that particular query. So here are some examples of content cannibalization. The first scenario is when you have user-selected parameters that generate different indexable pages serving the same content and populated from the same database. You can see this quite regularly on real estate websites, where there are indexable search category pages for different locations, such as states, cities, school districts, postal codes, neighborhoods, and so forth. In this case, the pages are likely populated from a sales property database. If there is a small number of properties per location and there is no additional unique content on those pages, content cannibalization can occur. In the graph, on the example on the left-hand side, you can see that there is no content cannibalization as each of the pages has a different number of properties in them, and there is no keyword or intent cannibalization either. In the example on the right-hand side, all of the properties for sale in the larger district are also located in one neighborhood, leading to content cannibalization, despite there being different on-page keywords and search intent. A second example for content cannibalization is when you have programmatically generated listicles, which are identical to the indexable search site pages. Looking at travel websites for this example, where we might find programmatically generated listicles targeting the keywords adjective plus property type plus location. Just to illustrate this could be something like cheap hotels in Barcelona. In some cases, these pages might cause content cannibalization with indexable, filtered property search results. Here's a concrete example from booking.com in which the title and search intent might differ, but the content is pretty much the same. In the query booking cheap spa resorts in the UK, one of the results is an article and the other one is an indexable internal search page. Before moving on, it's important to mention that not all instances of keyword, search intent, or content cannibalization cause problems. Problematic cannibalization could look different for each site, though once present, its impact on the site and its revenue could be considerable. Within the next section, I want to touch upon the potential impacts of cannibalization on website performance. Cannibalization issues, regardless of the particular cannibalization type, can impact your website's organic search performance, revenue, and user experience. Here are some examples of how problematic cannibalization can hinder performance in those areas. The first example is when the top ranked page is not optimized for the expressed search intent. For instance, going back to the booking.com example, the blog listicle is outranking the property listing or listing category page. This might be problematic as the user experience on the blog is not optimized for conversions, meaning that users would need to take additional steps to book a property if they first landed on the blog. This might cause your potential customers to leave the site and perform another search, potentially sending them to book elsewhere, hindering both your user experience and your website revenue. The second example is when a top ranking page does not correspond to the user search intent at all. Simply put, this is when another page addresses the search intent more robustly, but that page is not ranking first. This hinders the user experience and could signal to search engines that the page ranked at the top is not suitable to satisfy the intent of the query, resulting in diminished organic performance, which can be expressed in aspects like having a higher bounce rate, fewer conversions, and the page you created to rank for this topic intent not actually doing this job, which could be a signal for users wasting their time and effort by visiting this page. All of those are pretty poor signals to have. The third scenario is when multiple pages are slightly different from one another. They rank and they could possibly address the search intent in one way or another. When it comes to keyword and search intent cannibalization, your website might present users with multiple content choices, leaving them unsure what to select or whether to go back to the search results to click on another result from your site. This hinders the user experience. It could create frustration for your brand, and it could also inflate certain metrics related to search performance, such as click-through rate, bounce rate, and returned visitors. In many cases, these pages would likely struggle to capture high rankings on their own and would perform much better if you consolidate them. While there are many ways you can end up with cannibalization, it's certainly worthwhile to resolve it when it affects important pages. Multiple case studies have demonstrated the positive impact that can come from this. One SEO agency, for example, recorded 110% uplift in organic sessions after they consolidated efforts on a real estate website. Now that we understand cannibalization issues a little bit better, let's talk about how to diagnose those issues on your site. The first step in fixing cannibalization issues is knowing how to identify them. Here are a few different approaches you can take as a first step. Find pages that target the same keywords, which could signal keyword cannibalization. Then find pages that speak to the same target user using similar keywords, offers, or messaging, as this could signal search intent cannibalization. And then finally, find pages that contain similar content but may differ in terms of page content structure, target keywords, and so on. This could signal content cannibalization. Now, let's look at more concrete examples to help you identify cannibalization between such pages, including the metrics and tools that you should be using. Starting with the metrics first. To diagnose cannibalization, use the following metrics. The first one is keyword rankings. Map pages to their keywords and monitor position changes. If other pages start outranking the main page that's supposed to own the keyword, then cannibalization is occurring. The second metric that you should pay attention to is organic traffic. Check for traffic loss associated with certain keywords or pages that compete against one another in search. Another metric that you should pay attention to is click-through rate. Monitor changes in click-through rate for pages that you think may be competing against one another. The metric could signal user confusion when two or more pages from your site are shown in the same set of search results. And finally, monitor backlinks as well. Specifically, check the anchor text on backlinks for similarities and alignment between your target keywords and the text referring sites are using to describe your pages. Big discrepancies in the anchor text of backlinks can signal that your content is misaligned, which could work against this page. On top of the metrics mentioned, there are some additional elements that you can review to diagnose the specific nature of your cannibalization problems. When diagnosing search intent cannibalization, you should also consider these three things: bounce rate and exit rate, search intent alignment, and conversion rates and intended page alignment. When diagnosing content cannibalization, consider instances of content repurposing. This can give you a sample to work with in identifying problematic content repurposing practices that could lead to cannibalization. For instance, if you have a website where you are generating programmatically content from your content database using very slight differences between the pages. Another thing that you should consider specifically for content cannibalization is internal linking practices. Do the pages that are part of the same user journey or topic cluster link to one another? If not, this might cause them to be shown separately in search results, not showing them as indented search listings. Now, let's talk a little bit about some beginner-friendly tools to identify cannibalization issues. Most of the metrics that I've already discussed are available in GA4 and also Google Search Console. However, even if you can access the data, you still need to analyze it and to identify the cause of your cannibalization problems, something that many beginners struggle with. One common way to do this is via Google Sheets or a Looker Studio dashboard. Fortunately, there are some great time-saving and beginner-friendly templates that you can use. Here are my favorites for identifying keyword cannibalization. The first one that I want to suggest is Hannah Rampton's Looker Studio Cannibalization Dashboard, instructions for which can be found in the setup guides linked in the description. With this resource, you can import Search Console data and sort out pages that compete with one another for one or multiple queries. This allows you to quickly identify the degree of self-competition for certain queries. If you already have a third-party SEO tool like SEMrush or Ahrefs, you could easily find cannibalization using the Keyword Gap tool, which helps you identify shared keywords between the two site sections or subdomains for your site. What should we do when we identify those issues? In other words, how to fix cannibalization issues on your site. If you are positive any of the cannibalization types mentioned are happening on your site, instead of acting at the keyword level, evaluate your strategies for content, on-page optimization, and internal linking to find the right place to start. Before doing anything at all, determine whether the competition between the pages you're observing is problematic and prioritize your efforts accordingly. Let's discuss the prioritization before jumping into examples of good and bad cannibalization solutions. Plus, you should always prioritize these two instances of problematic cannibalization and simply monitor the other types that you are observing. The first one that you should always resolve is when your main page for the keyword, intent, or content ranks lower than other pages on your site but shouldn't. Enhance the content here and improve the user experience for the main page. I'll discuss options for other ranking pages a little bit later. The second scenario is when a page that is of low relevance to the keyword, intent, or content outranks the main page. Here you should consider taking actions such as consolidating content, implementing some content enhancements, or making edits to distinguish the two pages. And research also the changes in the SERP, as they could contribute to diminished search performance. For example, Google showing new types of rich results for this particular query could be a reason why those pages are not performing as well. The two situations where you should abstain from taking any action is when a page with high importance has a high position. In this example, you should monitor and protect the position. This means that the keywords which you are ranking as expected with the main page for the main keyword and the main intent. You should just defend your ranking, but absolutely monitor the positions over time. And then the second instance in which you should just monitor the positions is when you have a low importance page that has a low position for those particular queries. In most cases, this could be considered non-problematic cannibalization, as the page likely has other keywords of higher importance for the particular content on it. Let's talk about best practices for fixing cannibalization on your site. The first one is consolidating content. This means combining multiple overlapping pages into a singular comprehensive page. It involves merging the relevant information, removing any duplicate or overlapping content, and ensuring that the consolidated page provides the best user experience and the most comprehensive topic coverage. This solution is both simple and efficient, as it tackles cannibalization issues in multiple ways that help improve search performance. It improves the user experience by reducing confusion and creating a single source of truth on your site for a given topic or a given intent associated with this topic. It also simplifies internal linking as well as backlinking for external sites that want to reference your content. It also helps you boost authority and overall search performance as a result of improving the quality of the page with the most comprehensive topical coverage. When consolidating pages, also make sure to tackle the technical details, such as implementing page redirects and updating internal links so that users and search engines can quickly refer to the updated version of this page. The second solution is implementing content enhancements. There might be cases where page consolidation is not possible or simply not recommended, as pages have a unique purpose and role within the organization. Enhancements in this case, such as content editing, search intent realignment, perhaps even factoring in implicit search intent and on-page changes, can really help you resolve keyword cannibalization in cases where it makes sense to keep all the versions of the content. This approach works because it helps differentiate pages about the same topic by enhancing subtopic coverage while also keeping the authority of pages intact. The third solution is new content creation. Throughout your cannibalization audit, you might discover that your content on a given topic gets discovered by users that are also interested in something not fully addressed by your content. It could be a query or search intent that's not fully covered by your existing content. This essentially represents a new subtopic or content idea for you to pursue so that you can capture that audience. In such cases, the best is to create new content to fully cater to this search intent, assuming it is relevant for your business or website. What to avoid when fixing keyword cannibalization? I addressed what you can potentially do to resolve cannibalization on your website. Now, I want to talk about what not to do. The practices I will mention fail to account for the nuances of cannibalization that we talked about earlier, and are often a blanket solution that ultimately ends up hurting organic performance and user experience, which is bound to end up impacting your revenue opportunities as well. The first one is deleting pages. Why isn't page deletion a good solution? Well, it's not good for cannibalization, as it often ends up negatively impacting organic performance and user experience, causing more issues than it resolves. It can lead to loss of valuable content, which could otherwise generate search traffic. It can lead to diminished search rankings due to loss of topical authority and coverage for that topic. It could lead to disruption of the user experience, such as users encountering a 404 status errors. It could also lead to other potential technical SEO issues, such as broken internal links and so forth. If you have no choice but to delete a page, my suggestion is to at least put a 301 redirect in place so that you might sidestep the risks page de-indexing. For many of the same reasons, it is a bad practice. This is often not an efficient way to resolve cannibalization issues. The main issue with this approach is that at its core, it's not really a user-centric approach. Site visitors can still navigate to the de-index page via internal links, and the value of those links from an authority standpoint is lost after you implement the no index tag. The confusion for users might still be there, and the page de-indexation does not really resolve the issues that caused cannibalization. It only masks them from search engines, which is not a very good practice to begin with. Now that we've covered a full scope analysis of the types of cannibalization, how to diagnose them, how to fix them, and what not to do, let's recap what we learned and all of the advice on preventing keyword cannibalization. Firstly, cannibalization issues occur when pages compete against one another on your site for keywords to satisfy an expressed search intent, or simply because there are content similarities with other pages on your site. Although not all instances of cannibalizations are problematic, the ones that impact a website's search performance and user experience also tend to impact profitability as well. You can use multiple approaches to diagnose and fix cannibalization issues, but the main way to handle it is to be strategic and prevent it from the outset. Now let's talk a little bit about how to prevent problematic cannibalization from occurring on your site. The first advice is to create content and internal links strategically as opposed to sporadically. Routinely monitor organic keywords ranking reports for instances of cannibalization and make appropriate changes to ensure that the content of your pages fully satisfies search intent. Also, regularly update and expand your keyword universe to find ideas for new content or to enhance the existing content that you have on your site. Regularly monitor the search engine results page for changes of what Google considers the appropriate content type to satisfy search intent for different query types. For larger websites, make sure to implement systems that ensure that no keyword search intent or content cannibalization is directly introduced as a result of poor research or a lack of communication between the different teams in your organization. By eliminating problematic cannibalization, you can save potential site visitors from the confusion of multiple similar pages ranking in search, or even worse, the wrong page ranking for the given query, helping users navigate to their desired destination. When your strategy and content are implemented properly, that potentially means better search visibility and more conversions for your business. Thank you so much for staying with me on this long but hopefully very helpful lesson on cannibalization in SEO. And thanks so much for the Wix team, and specifically the team behind the Wix SEO Learning Hub, for their cooperation in creating this video and text resource. Make sure to check the resource on the Wix SEO Learning Hub for a little bit more details, guidance, and additional FAQs related to this topic. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.